Hello and welcome to this weekend edition of the Daily Dose of Greek. And today we're going to look at some verbs of speech within the New Testament. You notice all of these examples are taken from the Gospel of Matthew. We're going to look at apen, we're going to look at lege, and we're going to look at lησεν. So lησεν, of course, is from the lexical form laleo. Lege from the verb lego. And apen, though you can see it's building on a different root, is parsed as a second aorist of lego. So apen is just he said, lege he says, lησεν he spoke. Let's look first at Matthew 2:8, trying to distinguish the nuances of difference between these. Here we're talking about Herod the Great, and he sent them to Bethlehem and said, he's talking about Herod the Great interacting with the Magi here. He said, "Go and search carefully for the child, and when you find him, report to me so that I too may come and worship him." That is, worship the one who's been born King of the Jews. Of course, we know Herod the Great is lying here. It's part of a sneaky plan to try to figure out who his rival to the throne is. But we're focusing here on apen. It's, as we noted, it's the second aorist form of lego, and we're reminded that in historical narrative, the aorist is the default tense. So this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened. We expect in this kind of flow of what's going on to find lots of aorist because it's the default tense of historical narrative. And that fits with the verbal aspect of the aorist being a perfective aspect, right? Just looking at the action as a whole, including the beginning and the ending and everything in between, just reporting that it happened, fits well with historical narrative. We find the present tense, however, used here in Matthew 4:6. And the devil said to him, notice how in the final English translation, we're translating that present as a past tense because we don't use the narrative or historical present the same way that Greek does. And the devil said to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, He will command His angels concerning you, and on their hands they will bear you up, lest you strike your foot against a stone." So notice here how lege is used to introduce direct quotation. Similarly, apen up above is also used to introduce a direct quotation of what was said. This specific form, lege, is a present active indicative third person singular. And you'll notice that the historical present, or the narrative present as it's called, is often used within narrative to divide up the text. As Steve Runge says, to chunk up the text, to put it in smaller units that the reader or listener can process more easily. And verbs of speech and motion, like to go somewhere or to say something, are frequently found at these seams in the text. So when you have a new character or a new location, it's very common to have a historical or narrative present introducing that, depending again on the author and their own particular style and the frequency of using that. But even outside of the New Testament, we find the historical or narrative present used to chunk up text, and those verbs are often verbs of speech and motion. So again, just to quickly review, we're expecting apen as sort of default, this happened, this happened, this happened. But when it's introducing a new scene, a new location, a new person, or there's just the author's intending to somehow provide a chunk or seam there in the text, we'll frequently find the historical or narrative present use of lego. And both of these verbs that we've done so far, either the second aorist of lego, apen, or the present, historical present, we expect often direct quotation afterwards. That's different from laleo. Laleo is frequently used just to denote the activity of speaking without then providing the content of the speech. So let's look at an example of that here from Matthew 9:33. And after the demon was cast out, the man who had been mute spoke, right? Lησεν. Notice there we have the augment, we have the sigma, bam, that's just going to be an aorist active indicative, and that's a third singular ending. He spoke. But because of the use of this verb laleo, we're really not expecting to have the content of that speech, just the fact that the man was in fact talking. The crowds were amazed and said, "Never has anything like this been seen in Israel." There is a direct quotation, but that's related to the crowds, not the man, and it's introduced by a different verb. So I hope this quick review of apen, lege, and laleson has helped you think about the nuances of those, and you'll pay attention to that when you're reading through the Greek New Testament.